back to the Sports Lounge. Another... Hi.
Oh, dear.
Hello.
This is off to a great start, this
Another, another thing, maybe we make this a theme.
We are really pushing the holiday.
We have a tree with lights on it every show. Except this tree probably won't screw up our focus as much as the last one did. Because you and me were out of focus.
How could we lose our focus?
Hard to say. We start with the BCS. We know the games now. What do you like about the BCS games?
I would just quickly. I would say I'm so happy that they gave Alabama the chance to play them again.
So if they do win, the whole thing will be meaningless.
I'm glad they opened up the can of worms so that we can have co-national champions.
Yep.
When inevitably Alabama beats LSU and we're going to have co-national champs. I think...
What's better than one SEC team at being champion?
7.
2 of them! And that's what very well could happen. So, great.
I'm just wondering how long it is until they just start saying, oh, well, we're going to have the 12 SEC teams ranked 1 through 12, and then everybody else. Vanderbilt and Ole Miss just edge out Oklahoma State and Stanford in the final bowl.
Every year it's SEC is the best conference. SEC, but it's like, was the SEC really the best conference in college football?
Their best teams are better than everybody else's best teams.
But past
I would
Arkansas,
agree with that,
they're not any better than any other conference. You got Florida, Mississippi State, Auburn, whoever else. Georgia's pretty good.
To be fair, I don't even know if Arkansas is really that great. I mean, their record's good, but they almost lost to a 6-6 Texas A&M team too.
Well, the fact is that, you know, we look at the teams right now, and it's like I can't say that I think Alabama's better than Oklahoma State, or better than Oregon, or better than, you know, Wisconsin. You know, they're Big 12 champs. Like to me, I can't conclusively say if they're better, but you know, here's where we're at, and you know, they get the rematch, and you know, SEC makes more money.
Tim Brewster, Wisconsin is the Big 10 champs.
No, Big 12.
Yeah, but he said Big 12.
No, they are the Big 12 champs.
Oh, okay. Well, fine.
You just don't know.
They're the Big 10 champs of the 12-team conference.
Yeah. I'm happy with, if we're not talking specifically the national championship, I'm somewhat satisfied with the matchups that came out of it. Despite the fact that they kind of forget who's the top 10 teams in the BCS and throw them in a bowl, they take Michigan and Virginia Tech in the Sugar Bowl, teams that probably aren't deserving of a BCS bowl bid, and just say, well, you guys are going to bring a lot of fans to New Orleans, so...
I knew Michigan was going to go.
Yeah.
I did not think Virginia Tech, though. That surprised me. But like you said, other than the national title game, most of the matchups, I think, are pretty good. I mean, even the Orange Bowl, I mean, Clemson and West Virginia isn't like this great matchup, but it's better than a lot of them have been in the last
It's a lot better than Virginia Tech Stanford last year.
Who would you have
or
wanted?
Cincinnati, Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
Or Connecticut and Oklahoma. Yep.
Who would you want instead of Virginia Tech? Arkansas would seem like they would fit down in that region.
Baylor for me. Baylor or Kansas State. Either one of those two teams.
Arkansas couldn't by rules, so if we're going to stick with the rules, I'd go with Kansas State at 10-2.
Yep. Okay. Baylor would have been more explosive. I would have loved to see Baylor versus Michigan. You got Denai Robinson versus Robert Griffin III. That would be...
Come around, Marcus. You come around.
I have.
Very good.
I think Kansas State would give Michigan a game too.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I've been impressed with Kansas State all year.
I say, you know, when is the national championship game? We're like a full month away.
5 weeks. Yeah.
It would just be great if we could just have 3 more weeks of football. We got first round playoffs next week. You got great matchups down the line, like you know. Oklahoma State, Boise State, something like that. Great matchup like that. Or a...
He needs to get in.
You know what I'm saying? All these good matchups that are coming. He still keeps trying to come in.
But the next...
My point is, playoff system starts next week. That's when the real drama starts, and that is when, you know, you wish it could be like that, but instead, LSU is going to take probably 2 weeks off from football, and then 2-3 months later they'll play that national championship game. It'll be great.
Funny you should say that, because on Wednesday's show that we're going to tape, we're going to each have our own little playoff system.
That'll be cute.
Probably should be done.
Cute, very cute.
So you look forward to that.
Yeah.
What's funny is that's probably exactly what Bill Hancock's thinking. Yes. Oh, that's cute that they're doing that.
Yep, it is. Funny thing that I heard was Kirk Herbstreit, when he saw it was Virginia Tech, said, "You mean to tell me that the only reason why they picked these teams is because they're going to sell out the stadium?" I'm like, "Yep, because most bowl teams lose money in the first place. Auburn, they lost $600,000, even though they're your national champions last year. Wish I could have that title, losing $500,000. And then you have the Ducks in Oregon. They lost over $250,000 just by going to the national title game. So, a great idea these bowl games are for the financial well-being
for pretty much everyone except for Alabama.
That's where Herbstreit is wrong in the fact that it's not just BCS. Every single bowl game, all 35 bowl games pick. If they can,
the only one that doesn't is the national title game, because that's predetermined by that. Every other one is just set on trying to make
show
money
up to their games. Tickets. That's why Texas is going to the Holiday Bowl at 6-6.
Yeah,
I mean
that's why it's Ohio State and Florida at 6-6, because it's a couple of intriguing matchups with the old coach going to the new school, and it's a storyline. It's not for competition on the field, because Virginia Tech and Michigan, they don't deserve to be in the BCS with 4 losses apiece there. So no.
Here's the one.
4 losses combined, not apiece.
Here's a story that hasn't been written yet. Okay, so you got a mid-range bowl with, what's the one laughable bowl? UCLA and Illinois. 6-7, 6-6. Poll the players on both of those teams. Do you want to play in this bowl game, or do you want?
They want the things that come with the bowl game. They want the
you want the swag.
They want the Xbox.
Sure, you want the you want the lunchbox, and you want the Coca-Cola flask, whatever.
You can't sell your jersey, but they'll give you like $500.
Do you want 3 more weeks of practice? After you've been playing, after you've had a full-time job plus overtime for 3.5 months, do you want
to go home?
Are you tired? Do you want to go home? Do you want to maybe
2 weeks?
maybe have a couple weeks? Where
I will answer your question. They would almost all say they would rather play in a bowl game.
I disagree. I disagree.
But even at 6-6, they would. Success is tied in with making bowl games, and if they don't make one, they would be deemed completely unsuccessful.
Yeah, the fans, not to the players.
And
the players would too.
But it's kind of interesting that they gauge success by going to a bowl game, yet their coaches are still fired.
That's the funniest part of the whole thing.
Not meeting their...
You could go to the Rose Bowl, maybe one of the 3 biggest games all year.
Yep, you're one win away.
If you win this one game, but you're not going to... Even if you do win, you can't save your job.
Yeah.
And they almost,
they almost did
closer
to
than any of us thought they
did.
If bowl games are a measure of success, why is your bowl team coach being fired? That's
when you have
a funny storyline.
70 of the 120 or so teams make it.
Yeah,
it's bound to happen.
66.
Yeah, and you still have teams that are left off. USC's not going to a bowl. Miami's not going to a bowl for off-field issues. Then you have a couple of lower FBS teams that aren't getting invited because there's not enough spots. And UCLA, for some reason, petitions in to get one.
At 6-7. Yeah.
At 6-7, because they're UCLA at 6-7, and you have another school at 8-4 that's not going to get in because they're in the Sun Belt.
Yeah. And if UCLA would have been eligible for the Rose Bowl would have had no problem with that, because that right in the city they're going to bring 35,000, 40,000 fans. Yeah. So despite being a terrible team, it's the irony of it all.
It is. What would Bill Hancock say if he was sitting here? I'm Bill Hancock.
I'm still fine with most of it. I mean, I'll say it. I don't like the national title game the way that came out with, but the rest of it, that's the way it is. And people get upset that college football isn't like the other sports. Well, just because they're different doesn't necessarily mean they're wrong, though, either.
You could have the 25 other bowl games. Just give me 10, 12 teams, 16 teams to fight it out for the national title. All these other schools at 8-4 that have more than 3 losses, they can play exhibitions amongst themselves and entertain us. They're like the snacks the entire week. Then you have the main course on Saturday, the playoffs, and then the next week you have all these little games on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday up in Boise and wherever in San Antonio and wherever else. You can keep the bowls, and teams can continue to lose money, and then you can make more money by having 2 or 3 more home games if you're LSU, you telling me you wouldn't want a couple more home games to get 90,000 in there, make millions of dollars?
Bill Hancock would tell you that since 1999 or 98, whenever they started BCS,
98.
they've had, of the coaches poll, they've had 100% of the top 2 teams always make the championship game. And the AP poll, I think it's somewhere in 90%. And that's his, I know you guys had him on the radio, but that's his evidence that the system is working. Well, if the system is broke to the point where you're having all this debate over who the top 2 teams are, is the system really working? And, I mean, if, let's say Georgia beats LSU, then what would have happened? I don't know.
There would have been LSU and Alabama, and
would it have been?
Yeah.
I don't think it would have been. I think
I don't know.
I think
it would have been weird to see what would have happened.
Possibly. We'll have a cameraman coming up next. We look at the NFL.